So, are we ready for the loan committee?
Yep.
All right, I'll call the loan committee to order. First item on the agenda, public comment. Is there any public comment on issues within the committee's jurisdiction? Hearing none, we'll move on to the approval of the February 22nd, 2023 committee meeting minutes. There's no questions. I'll entertain a motion.
I would move to approve it, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Cindy.
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, the minutes are approved. Next item, Dan, Executive Director comments.
Maybe I'll spend a few minutes on the housing bill or lack thereof, as this would probably fall within the committee's jurisdiction. So the House and the Senate hate each other, which I'm sure former Representative Youngkin is surprised by. So the House killed the governor's bill. The Senate is now looking to amend most of the governor's bill with some tweaks that they like into a House bill and send it back. So far, the common threads between all of the versions that seem to be getting traction are some level of the Homes Act, us buying municipal securities with a separate trust fund to get a better blended rate for local governments. As I was telling Porter earlier today, the SRF program that you'll hear about later, and Anna Miller does a wonderful job of managing, is limited to existing infrastructure, where this would expand into new infrastructure. So it's a limitation within federal government, within the federal guidelines that they can't play in, but we could. And we actually have the ability to diligence muni bonds, unlike most other agencies in the state. There has been a sort of expansion from that the Senate wants to see some level of involvement in housing, actual housing construction, rather than just the infrastructure to facilitate lower costs. So not just getting cheaper roads, cheaper water, sewer, curbs, gutters, but assisting in total supply, I'll say stick-built vertical construction. That is not a core competency of ours, but I think it would reside here. What I'm kicking around, we'll see if they pass anything. If they go there, I'd probably bring some sort of link deposit program to you so that we can just park money with banks and let them do that. We get paid some percentage, they handle it. Because we're not in a place to do deed restrictions and track what level of CPI grew on what particular homes over how many years. Not something we do, and not something I'd advise the board to get into. And then the third component is there is a concerted effort in the Senate to add additional housing capacity, specifically around the institutions of Deer Lodge and Warm Springs. For workforce housing, not necessarily inmate housing, different set of my cousins, set of cousins that are behind the bars. That one would, I could imagine something like we do with the trust fund buildings of we build it, triple net lease it, and be done. But we'll see what they pass. I think the board will be part of whatever they do. I don't know how much, and it's sort of get a call from the budget director saying, not really our wheelhouse, put it somewhere else, or yeah, we could probably make that work, but.
So have you been an informational witness or part of this process to keep us
I was
clean?
Proponent for the governor's bill on homes per your all direction. None of the other bills have had a hearing yet, and none of them will have a hearing because the amendments will get slapped onto some other bill after that original hearing. So, at this point, it's just keep the cell phone on, and when the chair of finance or someone from the governor's office calls, you answer the call and give them the unvarnished truth. And we don't have a vote, so we kind of watch. But yeah, I guess my guiding light is what can we do? What is a core competency of ours? And what is not? Is something better placed at Board of Housing? Is something better placed at another agency? And just advise them to that.
Is it all state funding for this?
So for the muni bond security purchases, that would all be state money matched with the local 50%. For anything around the institutions, yes. And then anything on the stick built, I don't know what they're thinking. The original Homes Act, they added the amendment that required deed restrictions on any properties that the board assisted to get built. So imagine a scenario where there's a 172 unit subdivision going in East Helena. If we were to go play and help the water line get built, we'd have to put a deed restriction on every piece of property out there and then track how that piece of property was affordable. Well, Doug already wants to hit me after all of the ARPA programs I put through him. I don't think he wants to be tracking individual purchases and sales and resales of every major subdivision we may have a security interest in through that bond. So hopefully they get away from that. If they don't, I frankly don't know how we make it work. We don't have the capacity to do some of that.
Can I ask some questions, Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
Okay, so you said the money was state money, but where exactly is it coming from? Is it coming from the surplus or is it coming from the source?
Surplus. We got a lot of questions in the last month on Coal Trust. Excuse me. There's $2.2 billion surplus is not enough. So let's look at the other $1 billion sitting over on the side in the Coal Trust. And trying to feed as much information as we can to the legislature on what happens when you take that Coal Trust corpus and dedicate the principal for some, maybe it could be a very worthy proposal. That's not our lane. That's a policy decision of the legislature. But when you say all we can get for a yield is 2%, you can't hold us accountable for anything that's below a market return. So inception to date is 5.33 in TFIP. The loan portfolio is kicking out about 2.7. So, if they want to do these things, they can do that, but they need to understand there's a performance hit that's not on us. So we've already built the accounting mechanisms so that in the next annual report, we'll show here's what we earned for those dollars that we invested on behalf of the Coal Trust versus for those loan programs you created at 2% or some lower threshold, here's your annual cost. I mean, it's running about $5.3 million a year or 5.1 million a year last year in losses to the general fund based on those. And my big fear is we get blamed for that when it's not our decision. So that has steered a lot of the conversation over toward, well, would we rather get 2% on general fund forever, or would we rather lower our 5.33 even further in the trust funds?
So this would not go in a cap, it'd be in a TFIP account.
It'd be in a separately managed account, yep, with some ownership of TFIP and STIP.
And if I understand correctly, this is a combination of purchasing securities or bonding and loans?
Yes.
Okay, all right. But so the interest rate is going to be set in law or set arbitrarily? It's not going to be in like the intercap loans or anything like that?
Currently, it would be a board decision how to set those rates. So, my recommendation would be we come up with some benchmark to tie it to. So like with Doug's programs, there's a benchmark and it links to that. So it's not an artificial decision of the board that, oh, this is a wonderful program, let's go here. It's, here's what the market says, here's where we should go. Louise's program, same thing. 1-year T-bill, here's the market, here's the, spread that the board will make on it for our participants. There was some talk of a 0.5% benchmark for all security purchases. I don't know that they're still there, but that was sort of just an arbitrary, like they do with the intermediary relending program or some of the others, it's just 2% and that's it. So
In the Holmes bill, I read that the Board of Investments would set the interest rate, and that's still the case, is that?
in the dead bill, yes, in the new bill, and then they had an amendment to lock it at 0.5%. And then they had an amendment to lock it at half of CPI or 2%, whichever was greater. They didn't know what they wanted to do. Some of those were poison pill amendments. Some of them were, let's just make sure we can guarantee a more affordable security purchase on those bonds. I think the conversation in the Senate is more, what's a meaningful way to help local governments do this that also gets a return? And
Is the amount still around 200 million that was?
it's still around 200 million, but they're also about $2 billion upside down in the general fund status sheet as of last Friday, so that could shrink a bit.
How do you figure out a benchmark for something like that? I mean, is there a world of people?
That is, well, they're all right here. I don't know what we look at. I don't know if we look at a 30-year mortgage and do some sort of back off or something. What I don't want to do is have some sort of arbitrary number that the board adopts that then is fungible, depending on who the applicant is or something like that. It's at least from Doug and my perspective in reviewing these, and I gotta believe from Louise's as well, if we have something to point to that's market driven, it's a better place for us, because then we're not in a haggling position with what's the value.
It's hard for me to imagine a market-driven
Right.
mechanism like that. That's all. That's what I was asking.
Yeah.
Questions. What do you frame
We'll have to
Bring
get
your
creative.
expertise to us now.
that? Yeah, right. My expertise. Yeah, and how to build a house.
Well, on the good news, the per diem bill to double your per diem to $100 a meeting is still up for hearing in the Senate. So you're all gonna be doubling your wages next year, hopefully.
Yeah. Are we expected to testify?
Would you like me to go be a proponent on your behalf, Mr. Chairman?
No.
Other than that, I think we have the last deadline for down payment assistance, second round is April 27th. So we'll have final numbers on that. When you come back in May, we'll have total program summary in hand fairly well. Might be some 90-day reservations still outstanding, but anything else? The debt-free, might impact Louise's world. The debt-free bill, House Bill 251 that passed, that will pay off all of the state's outstanding debts. To the extent DNRC has anything with us, they may be paying those off a little early. Not a bad thing, but some of the rates we've been getting lately, it's kind of hurts to get paid off early. But that will be happening over the course of the next several months.
Does that include intercaps then? Intercap loans?
No, it would just be DNRC's bonds. Anything through DNRC that's a bond or backed by a bond or issued by a bond, intercap, no.
That's what you're talking about in the
Yes.
documents here.
So this is one, we may give them a loan and then they turn around in a month and a half and pay us back with a different bucket of money. But we'll make some interest on it in the meantime. That's it, Mr. Chair.
So Dan, specifically on that, there's no provision that they're looking at to, obviously we have varying rates with the DNRC, or I believe, or we have issued at varying rates. There's no provision that they're going to look towards, paying off higher rate bonds and retaining lower rate bonds. They're just going to propose to pay everything off.
There is, so we've been working with them on economic defeasance and whether or not there's any favorable arbitrage for the state. Depends on what the individual indentures say. So there are some that we just can't do that. We've got to do a fully legal defeasance, park the money with US Bank and be done. There are some other instances where, we're looking at STIP versus what that payoff might look like. And I think there's three in the total 136 million, three total bonds in the whole 136 million where we'll probably do some sort of economic defeasance. I don't know if that will be with us or if that will be with US Bank. The focus right now is just get all of the things that they know they want to pay off now out the door, and then we'll work on the economic defeasance over the summer.
I got you. Okay. All right. If that's it, looks like we have some intercap loan requests. Louise, you can take it from here.
Thank you, Chairman Meredith, members of the loan committee, and distinguished guests. So we just have a couple of loan requests before the loan committee today for DNRC. We have been talking a little bit about DNRC. If I may, though, for the new members, Chairman Meredith, if I could just kind of briefly go through what exactly these programs are for the DNRC, if that's okay.
That'd be great. Please do. Thank you.
All right, I'll do that. So a little background on this. These are state revolving fund programs is what they are. So the InterCap program has been providing interim financing for these programs. These programs are jointly administered by the Engineering Bureau of the Department of Environmental Quality, so that's DEQ, and a Conservation and Resource Development Division of the Department of Natural Resources and Conservation, so DNRC, kind of a mouthful. So long story short, jointly administered by the DEQ and DNRC. But the DNRC handles the financing side of it. So that's the reason why they are the ones that are working with the InterCap program to provide that interim financing. So with these different programs, they have, there's two different ones, the drinking water, SRF, and also the water pollution control, SRF programs. So drinking water, they have a loan portfolio of about 175 million, close to that. The water pollution control, they have about 300 or a little over 300 million in their loan portfolio. So that's the loans that are cycling through their programs. Their loan rate is 2.5%. Now you're wondering, well, gosh, how did they get that cool rate, right? Well, a lot of their money that they are lending out is grants from the federal government. So they are able to have those lower rates. They also have a rate in there for a reserve and to administer the program is within that 2.5%. The person, executive director, Villa mentioned that Anna Miller, she is the contact. She's been with the DNRC program and doing this for quite some time. Actually, she's almost generational because her mom was a fighter for clean water. She picked up the torch, and right now I believe Anna is in DC at the EPA meetings there. So she's very heavily involved in the success of these programs. So these are also 30-year programs. So that's just a little information on the water pollution control and also drinking water. Water pollution, they finance the construction of publicly owned water pollution control facilities and projects. And the drinking water side is they provide loans to finance the entire cost of qualified projects or to refinance loans for community water systems and nonprofit water systems as well. All right, so that's just kind of an overview of what these programs are about. So let's see what InterCap can do for them in the form of interim financing. So the first request here is for the drinking water SRF program. This is a combined total of 3.4 million in interim financing they're requesting for the drinking water program. This is going to be divvied up in two separate amounts because there's two separate grants in play here. The first one, so the first amount, the 1.5 million, that will be a ban. It's a partial match for the federal EPA capitalization grant. And that is what the board sees every time these show up, is the capitalization grant. So the new player here is going to be this partial match, the 1.9 million of that partial match for a 2022 EPA bipartisan infrastructure law, the BIL supplemental grant proceeds. So where is the first one coming from? So the first one is coming out of the Safe Drinking Water Act. Now, that Safe Drinking Water Act came around about 74. And that's when we were able to, as a nation, start to test water and be able to figure out that, hey, this is bad news, and how to do it, and also figure out how to enforce getting clean water. So there were some amendments done with the Reagan administration, and then the most recent amendment was in 1996 with the Clinton administration. And when they amended it, it was actually to put some funds out there, to get the money out there to help with these projects, to get the clean water going nationwide. So that was in 96 when that happened. So this new one, this bipartisan infrastructure law, this is a part of the current administration, the Biden administration's Build a Better America, and it was signed into law in November of 2021. And so this particular law is pushing out 65 billion out into the nation. 50 of that is the largest investment ever that is going to EPA and out to the rest of the states to improve the nation's drinking water, wastewater, and stormwater. And so that's what those two are about. So then, that aside, we have the match that they need to do. We have the grants, the authorization that we're looking at here. This first bit of authorization is the part where they can issue bonds. And who is they? That's the Board of Examiners. And you probably already know this, but this is just for me. Board of Examiners includes the Governor, Secretary of State, and the Attorney General. So they're the ones that are making the decisions for these bonds and signing the resolutions to make these happen. The ban authorization is for the interim part of it. That's the code that we're falling under, is the 175805. Underneath that, you'll see the authorization that they actually have a state debt cap for these loans, these bonds. For drinking water, it's 50 million, and DNRC has 47.1 available of that amount. So they have a lot of room there. So in the intercap debt part, it says here, since 1996, intercap has been providing this interim financing. So when that amendment went into play in 96, intercap has been the interim financer for these projects, these particular programs. So as they draw these down, they do plan on drawing down their existing commitment and paying it off before they start drawing on these funds. We do have one of their, let's see, they have 3 outstanding. One of those is going to pay off in May. So how do these normally work is for several years now, they have been able to just use the repayments from their loans. So the repayments coming in on the loans is what's paying these bans down. They're not actually needing to issue bonds. And that's a good thing because the intercap program has been able to provide them this temporary money so that they don't have the cost of issuance for bonds. And that's, if anyone has ever been involved with issuing bonds, it's quite costly to do that. So we have been able to save that money because that money now can go out to more water projects, right? Instead of being just paying lawyers and money people. So we discussed the repayment there. So if there aren't any other questions involved with this particular request, staff is recommending approval with the conditions listed. And those conditions are something that we have with every one of these, nothing new.
So total amount of this particular loan is $3.4 million.
Right.
Okay, you go through a whole discussion about matching and that sort of thing. The 1.5 is the state portion, and that is the 9% or the 16%?
The 16.
The 16% in both of these?
Mhm.
And okay, so the other question I have, Louise, is what kind of interest rate are we assessing on these loans?
We have the same rate for everybody, so it's the 5.75.
5.75.
With DNRC, they aren't able to do the automatic payment, so it's actually gonna be 6% for them. Because of their dealings with a trustee, that they are requiring wires, so we need to have that higher rate.
If there are no other questions, we could entertain a motion to approve the DNRC request for the Drinking Water State Revolving Fund.
I'll motion we approve.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Moving on to the next one, Louise, continue, please.
All right, thank you, Chairman Meredith. The second request is gonna be really short because I went through all the other stuff. This is just the amount. So the amount is for the Water Pollution Control SRF program of 2.25. The split's going to be one band for 1.3 million and another band for 950,000. They do have a larger cap, a larger debt limit. In the authorization, you'll notice that they have 70 million available under the statute, and drinking water was 50. So under this one, they have actually 52.3 million available in debt authority under that particular statute for pollution control. And this one, staff is also recommending approval with the additional conditions.
Any specific questions on this request? If not, I'll entertain a motion for approval of the DNRC Water Pollution Control State Revolving Fund request.
I'd so move, Chairman Meredith.
Thank you, Cindy.
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. There's nothing else. Louise, just a general question on kind of intercap financing. Obviously, this type of a request, I think, continues to fit very well in that program. The current, muni market, along with, most interest rate curves, has, a pretty solid inversion. Are you seeing people kind of any requests or opportunities kind of move towards bond financing just to capture lower rates than the intercap right now? Obviously 575s, a bit higher than you could potentially get on a term basis.
Are you speaking on bank loans?
I was just wondering in general, like your typical intercap loan request from, a routine borrower, are they electing to look elsewhere? Just given that 5.75% rate, or are you still seeing kind of the same, expected activity coming through?
Right now, I am seeing the same expected activity, and expected being in quotes. So right now, the intercap program, with all the extra funds that have been pushed out into the market from the federal government, that intercap has slowed down. But we are staying on. We do have our typical fire districts, our schools. Right now, we have 5 applications that are under review that are just pending receiving information. That is about 1.2 million. So we are doing it's slower, but we are maintaining, considering what's out there right now. I have been checking a little bit on the bank loans, and you probably have a little more information on your side of it, but just on a general, those with absolutely excellent credit, which are those chosen few out there that are like in the 7 and the 8 FICO scores, right, are actually getting kind of where we're at right now with the 575. If anybody is under that, and we're talking vehicle loans, mortgages, that sort of thing. So if their FICO credit's lower than that, then it's higher and higher and higher at that point. So I think we're there. We're still a good option if they need us.
That's good to hear. I just noticed kind of from where I sit here that we've, from a bank perspective, we've just been challenged with, penciling out, being competitive on longer term fixed rate options, just given kind of the inversion curve and short-term funding costs. So I didn't know if that was impacting the intercap as well, but it's good to hear that there's still strong activity there, or normal activity. Okay, good. If there's no other questions, we can adjourn the loan committee.
Good, thank you, Jim.